Welcome back. Now we pivot from focusing on one form of competition, athletics, to our competitions for public office, namely our elections. And since Election Day is just around the corner, there's no better way to welcome our next keynote speakers who will discuss what's at stake in the coming election and the overall state of our democracy. So please welcome Janet Napolitano, the former UC president and currently a professor of public policy here at Berkeley, and David C. Wilson, dean of the Goldman School of Public Policy, for a seat at the table, a conversation on democracy.
If we've learned anything in the last few years, it's that there are no easy fixes for the problems we face as a society. A warming climate, a global pandemic, climate change, racial injustice, political polarization, and ever-widening inequality. They're competing values and priorities, politics and power struggles. It's complicated. Now, more than ever, we need meaningful systemic change that will bring about a future that works for everyone. But how do we get there? How does that better future get made? At UC Berkeley's Goldman School, we know that good public policy is how that better future gets made. It requires people dedicated to the common good, working in and out of the spotlight to create and implement effective solutions. That's why Goldman School faculty undertake data-driven, evidence-based research, tackling climate change, criminal justice, poverty, education, politics, and building a more effective government. And it's why we train the next generation of public policy leaders, providing them with a toolkit that will transform their idealism into lasting impact. This is the hard work of democracy. This is the work of the Goldman School. Do you want a more just, inclusive, democratic, and sustainable future? Then come join us.
Thank you very much, Chancellor Chris, for the introduction. On behalf of Professor Napolitano and I, thank you for your gracious leadership and steadfast, committed support. Your service to us and to the university is commendable and remarkable. And congratulations on surpassing the $6 billion goal. I just saw a note on that. Only $1 billion more to go. So let's get started. Professor Napolitano and I are both happy to join you today in dialogue about democracy in the Goldman School of Public Policy, but also share some perspective about what the University of Berkeley means to us and why it's so special. I'll offer a few remarks and then I'll turn it over to Professor Napolitano, and then maybe we'll share some confidential information on the back end. So because of Berkeley's historic leadership on issues like preserving and protecting free speech, civil rights and liberties, and democratic governance, UC Berkeley must lead our state and our nation when it comes to safeguarding democratic principles that we value. And as we gather today, just 4 days before the 2022 midterm elections, I'm sure the urgency of the moment is not lost on any of us. The fact that only last year our nation's Capitol building and its public protectors and our faith in our democratic social contract of forbearance and peaceful transition were each assaulted. And by Wednesday of next week, there's a chance that we'll find ourselves in a setting that could yield a similar scenario. Berkeley's prominence and expertise and our collective desire to make a difference in this area is clearly underscored by the prominent role that democracy and inequality play as a signature initiative in the Light the Way campaign. What is public policy? Public policy consists of any and all actions that help regulate society and channel our behavior in desired directions. If we desire health and safety, policies provide clean water and testing. If we desire a robust economy, policies incentivize fair labor practices and educate the masses. If we desire privacy, policies protect our differences and provide security to our information guided by ethics. And if we desire legitimacy and trust with public officials, policies provide safeguards to our election systems and our voting practices. Public policy is more than just legislation. It's literally how our society collectively deals with public problems. This is difficult and often thankless work, but our democracy requires it. At the Goldman School, as you saw in the video, we're proud to proclaim that we do the hard work of democracy every single day, and we believe that public policy is how a better future gets made. It's our charge as a graduate school of public policy to bridge the gap between the knowledge we generate here at UC Berkeley and the real world impact needed by our state and elected officials. We are the #1 ranked program at public policy analysis and at the #1 public institution in the world. The university would not exist without public policy, and therefore we are the Berkeley of public policy schools. That's why we have public policy leaders like Janet Napolitano on our faculty. She is a professor who is also a former state attorney general, a governor, a White House cabinet member, an international policy advisor to many, and a great colleague. Professor Napolitano is an experienced leader and servant. She knows what it takes to get things done. She knows the hard work of democracy. Professor Napolitano, tell us why you decided to join UC Berkeley, and in particular, the Goldman School. What would you like to contribute to our school and to the campus as a professor?
Well, thank you, David, and thank you all who are participating in today's meeting. Sessions like this, I think, are so incredibly valuable. When I decided to step down after 7 years as president of the UC system, I had choices about where to go, what to do. And I was immediately attracted to the Goldman School. Why? Because obviously, based on what I've done during my career, I have a keen interest in public policy, how it's made, but also a keen interest in how we educate the next generation of public policy leaders, how we give real substance to that key phrase, evidence-based and data-driven. Well, what does that mean? And then how do we translate that work from the classroom to the work in the nation's capital, in Sacramento, in cities? How do we translate it into programs that have meaningful and positive outcomes for our fellow citizens? And so, and plus, you know, the Goldman School's got a great reputation. It's a great group of colleagues. So it didn't take much persuasion to join the faculty here at Goldman.
What do you like most about being a professor?
You know, I never thought I'd be a professor. But I have found, and I've been teaching now, this is my 3rd semester teaching, that I get as much out of the students, and probably more, I could probably get more out of the students than they get out of me. The interaction in the classroom, the discussions, and here's the thing about Goldman students, and I think it pertains to Berkeley students overall. So you'll assign readings for a class session. And then within the readings, there'll be hyperlinks to other readings. And then in those will be hyperlinks. And I have found that our students not just read what's assigned for that session, but they read all the hyperlinks and then the hyperlinks. And so it's an amazing experience. They're so smart and so well prepared.
Thank you. I'll turn it over to you now.
Well, David, why did you come to Berkeley? What was your journey here?
I have been a public servant for some time. I served in the military. I have went to an undergraduate university, Western Kentucky University, that was a public regional university that was committed to public service. And I've always valued the broader public mission, and Goldman public policy is the way that you actually can execute some of the broader values of the institution. So we are that bridge, that translation academic unit that helps state officials, county officials, local officials, and federal officials think about solutions to public problems. This idea of evidence-based is both quantitative data and qualitative life experiences. And the interdisciplinary nature of the Goldman School, we have economists, political scientists, psychologists, sociologists, statisticians. We all sit around the table to try and come up with new ways to study what might work, and then how to implement that, and then study the effects of whatever that solution is. Even the challenges that we face in a university around budgeting and space and seismic issues and curriculum planning and outcomes, this is what a School of Public Policy helps students to develop the skills and the toolkit to evaluate the alternatives to real problems that exist. And so I found that deeply attractive at the Goldman School. And of course, the intellectual capital here at the campus is unparalleled. And I know that people here are really committed to the public mission, and I want to be a part of that.
All right. I think you're going to ask me a question now.
I got one big question. I want you to put your cabinet hat back on, and in thinking about democracy, what do you see as the biggest threats to democracy today? And how do you see the Goldman School and other units on campus as helping to address some of those? Information security, maybe getting students more involved in Washington, D.C. activities. What things are you thinking about if you are a leader in D.C. and you're looking to a place like Goldman or Berkeley to help you solve some problems?
Well, I think we can all agree that our democratic institutions are under attack from a variety of sources. It is the growth of misinformation and disinformation on social media. It's the questioning of the integrity of our electoral system. It's the doubt and negativity, actually, that I think unfortunately has grown in the American population. And so, I think we need to take on those big questions. What has caused this? What are possible approaches to strengthen our democratic institutions? How do we restore public trust in our democracy? How do we help the populace understand that making public policy you don't just go in a room and flip a switch. I mean, it's hard work. How do we educate people about the value of listening and the value of healthy compromise? All of those questions require, I think, stepping back, and you can do that at a place like Goldman and at a campus like Berkeley. Step back, ask some of these big questions, and then translate into specific public policy problems that are being addressed today as part of this. For example, I'm working with an interdisciplinary group of professors on different approaches to Section 230 of the Federal Communications Act, which is a statute that gives legal immunity to these big social media platforms for the validity or non-validity of the information, the content that is posted on the platforms. This is something that's being debated in the Congress now. So the ability to kind of step back, ask some big questions, and then identify particular problems that we can provide some insight into and some approaches to, I think is something that Goldman is uniquely situated to do. And so as we look to what we're doing and what I'm doing at Goldman, one of my ideas is to really expand the security curricula and approaches that we have at Berkeley, and almost to create a Berkeley model of security where in addition to kind of the traditional problems of nuclear power and deterrence and military organizations and arms and things of that sort, all very important, we also move into other issues that are underlying our nation's security now: climate change, cybersecurity, and emergent technologies. And then what I began this answer with, which is the security of our democracy and our democratic institutions.
Yeah. This is interesting. So Stanford has a Hoover Institute, and Rice University has, for example, a Baker Institute, and my former institution, I helped to develop a Biden Institute. Let's say we have a Napolitano Institute. I actually think it's a great idea. Who would we want to bring to that institute to help think about to help us step back and think about some of these issues? And what would be some of the coolest things you could see happening at something like a Napolitano Institute?
Well, I think we should call it the Wilson Institute, but beyond that,
There's probably one of those already.
There you go. I think bringing to campus public policy practitioners, people who are in office or who occupy positions in the government, who our students would benefit from hearing from and getting to know, and they would benefit from having time to do some thinking and research or writing, whatever, by spending some time at the Berkeley campus. So bridging between the academy and the practitioner, I think is something that we can facilitate. And so we're working hard on that. And another thing is to introduce our students to our nation's capital and the policy making in Washington. So, for example, this spring, we're going to take 20 students back to Washington for a week of immersion into meeting with practitioners in the security arena. So they begin to be able to decipher, well, what do we mean by the interagency? What departments have responsibility for what? And then, of course, what are the job opportunities that our students would have should they be interested in pursuing their career there?
Right. That's a great idea. I'm sorry to put you on the spot, but I thought it was a good time.
Yeah, I think just a few examples, but let me ask you a question. You've been now at Goldman, I think this is your first year?
Just started year two.
You just started year two. What have you learned about Berkeley and Goldman in your time here? And if we can kind of play it forward 5 years, what's your vision for where Goldman will be?
Well, I've learned that we literally do the hard work of democracy, even here at Berkeley. This is a large campus, and it's located in an area that is really unique. I've been introduced to ideas like microclimates and fire zones. Coming from Delaware, we just don't have those. And And so the problems that you experience at a place like Berkeley in the city and on the campus are different. And that's what I actually appreciate about the place, is the diversity of experience that you get being here, and being able to talk to different people on campus is great. I think what we are learning to do is coordinate better, right? And thinking about how to work across school and college and departmental lines to create structures that allow synergies to exist in perpetuity, or at least until we can find ways to sustain them for longer. Working across, the street with engineering, or working on the other side of campus with the social sciences, or working with the high school, working with public health and journalism. This is the work of a public policy school. And I've learned in my year here that it just takes a lot of kind of relationship building and time. That's the same way the government works. It's the same way that academia works in the broader profession. But we need more mechanisms. We need to really be able to support our leaders and our faculty and our students as well, to think about things in a broader interdisciplinary way. And I'm excited to always see these new opportunities coming across campus. 5 to 7 years from now, I hope that honestly, we are a resource for the state, the nation, and various international locations as well. Not just as individual faculty, but as a school, for example. We should be supporting the city of Berkeley and understanding what policies and programs are working. We should be a resource for the state of California and have a footprint in Sacramento, helping the government to reform its workforce and provide training and new analytic tools to create good public policy. We should be in San Francisco helping the leadership make decisions and connect with the community with knowledge that and best practices that have worked in other places. So I'd like to see Goldman get off the hill, so to speak. We're on the northeast corner of campus, and be more where the action is happening. And if that's in the form of a nice Napolitano Institute, or a Goldman stronger presence in Sacramento or Washington, D.C., or Mexico, or Johannesburg, I think that ideally, that's where we should go. We should be a resource. We're a public institution. We're a public policy school. We have some of the best and brightest minds in the Goldman School and on our campus, and we could help make a difference in society and train the next generation of leaders and stewards of the public mission.
Yeah, that's such a great vision, and expanding the reach and the footprint of Goldman, I think that's a journey that I'm really excited to work with you on. David, I think let's kind of change the pace here and do a lightning round of questions. So,
right.
All right, I'm gonna go first and go through a lightning round series of questions with you. So, are you ready?
I think I'm ready.
All right. What's your favorite national park?
I'll say Rocky Mountain National Park.
Okay, nice.
But
one.
there's a tie with 30 more of them, but we'll just pick one.
Okay. When was your last vacation, and what did you do? I don't think you've had time to take a vacation.
I don't know. What's that? I'll say I think I went to Hawaii last Thanksgiving, or I guess around this time last year, and spent 4 days just on the coast, listening to waves crash. And on the 5th day we left. So,
what's the first concert you ever went to?
I think the first one I went to, believe it or not, was an Elton John Sha Na Na, if you remember Sha Na Na.
I do.
And the Doobie Brothers in Cleveland, Ohio. I used to live in Cleveland back in the 70s. I think that's where my first concert I can remember.
Yeah, I remember when I was an undergraduate, they used to have these things called Days on the Green out here. And they'd get 3 big acts interspersed with not so big acts, and you'd be outside all day, and you'd hear Fleetwood Mac, and you'd hear Journey, and you'd hear whoever. Always a great time. In our days of yore. What's the longest bike ride you've ever done?
I rode my bike for 150 miles one day, continuously.
One day?
One day. Yeah. It was a century and a half. It was in Delaware, so it's flat. So you'll get a tailwind, you'll make it pretty easy. But that was, and I've only done it once, so that should tell you what kind of experience it was.
Well, in Delaware, you almost went from boundary to boundary, border to border, right?
North to south, yep.
Okay. What's a food you can't resist?
I got a problem with cheesecake.
Yeah,
it's a problem.
That's the thing. What's something you wish you could do more of?
I wish I could do more cycling. There are hills here. I don't know if anybody's seen them, but that's different than Delaware. And so you got to work your way up to those kinds of things. No more 150-mile rides here.
Yeah, when you even getting up to Goldman, riding up Hearst Avenue, that's a hill.
That's a workout. I'm ready to go home after that.
What's your favorite aisle in the grocery store?
The coffee and cereals aisle.
Uh-huh.
I could spend hours there.
What's your least favorite vegetable?
I'm not a green beans fan. Let's just skip it and go straight to broccoli, right? So
yeah, I'm not a broccoli fan, so I'll eat the green beans and you can eat the broccoli.
Broccoli is
okay. Oh, and who's your favorite professor at the Goldman School?
Oh, Professor Napolitano, of course. That's right. All right, I think I've got my orders and we'll get to these pretty quickly, but these are tough. Janet, who was your favorite cabinet member when you were Homeland Security Secretary?
Kathleen Sebelius.
Very nice. Homeland, she was Health and Human Services.
Health and Human Services. We were governors together too, so we were friends before and are still good friends.
Wonderful. Name a sport or game where you are most confident you will win.
Ping pong.
What? Really?
Yeah, I'm a pretty good table tennis player.
Okay, we should go to some ping pong halls and just shark you, right? Just say, hey, you want to take this person on and win us some money here. What is the most dominant color in your clothes closet?
I would say red. It's in my color wheel, so
It's in your color wheel.
it's all good.
All right. If you had a superpower, what would it be?
A super the ability to be invisible.
What was the make and model of your first car ever?
It was a Honda Accord, hatchback, 5 on the floor. And I bought it right when I graduated from law school and used it to drive across the country in. And everything I owned fit in that car. I mean, that wouldn't happen today.
Everything you own, right? Last question. Who's your favorite dean at the University of California, Berkeley?
Oh, I'm looking at him right now.
All right. Thanks, Professor. That was good. I'm going to turn it back over to Bettina. Thanks for hanging out with me.
All right, David.